Howdy, my name is Roger. I love my country, my truck, and Power Platform best practices. If you're serious about becoming a Power Platform solutions architect, join the Architects Accelerator. Now enough of my fake Southern accent, and let's hear from an actual participant of the program, Anna Black.
Hi, I'm Anna Black. I'm the creator of Power Platform Cookbook. I joined the Architects Accelerator because I saw a post from Magdalena and she was so positive and inspired me to join and see what it's all about. Before joining the accelerator, I was avoiding AI. And then when I saw how to apply AI and practice like soft skills, and it just like it really opened my mind to try different things for myself with different tools and everything. It really helps you to evaluate what you know and what you don't know, because when you are doing your job for like so many years, you might be missing a trick and like a different approach. So it really helped me to look at the problems from a different angle. And it was really great to meet with people and be like a part of another community and exchange ideas and so on. So yeah, lots of benefits that did change my life. So thank you.
The link is in the show notes, or go to untethered365.com to learn more.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Sprint Zero podcast. My name is Mike Gowland and I'm here with my co-partner rat in crime, John Russell. John, hello.
Hiya, how's it going? All right?
I'm okay. I'm okay. How are you?
Just okay.
Just okay. Long story.
Okay.
So John, today we are joined by Rory Neary. Rory is a freelance Power Platform trainer and consultant. He's been working in the Power Platform space since those early days of Power BI and has trained many people across Europe in that time, from Italy up to Iceland and from Ireland over to Finland. Rory's online content is unreal. He has a Power Platform course on his website, powerplatformlearn.com, that has 42 hours of content and 300 lessons, which is an epic achievement, right? It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Rory. How are you doing today?
I'm really, really happy to be here. And this is obviously the first time I've been on. I've listened to your podcast for so long and all. I love listening to it, but I can actually see you guys now.
Nice.
It's like virtually.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. I really appreciate. We really appreciate that. One of the funniest things ever is you were the very first person I ever saw present at any conference ever.
Hey, so funny.
And it was the Excel Centre in 2019 for Ignite.
Is that the one where I ran down the middle and then 10, 9, 8, 7, 2?
Yeah.
That was so funny. I don't even know how I did that.
Yeah, and you massively helped me get hooked onto Power Platform, because back then I wasn't really in this space at all. So do you want to tell us tell us your kind of journey and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, it's a funny one. I think that going back a ways, I've always thought I've been on a journey, and I thought maybe about 5 years ago I was at a certain point in the journey. It's just gone on and on. But for me, the Power Platform journey started when I was working as an accountant. And I'd been working maybe 20 years as an accountant. And so for me, I got to the point, certainly with the projects that I had been doing and the work I'd been doing, where I kind of realized that it was really coming to the end of its useful life, so to speak. There was nothing new under the sun. I would be, the orders would come in and I'd get a bit older and they would get a bit younger or something like that. They probably wouldn't get that much younger, but maybe I got older and but they would ask the same questions year in, year out and so on. And I realized that I needed something different. And I literally just stopped the accountancy. I thought, you know what? I am not doing that. I don't care what I do. I will not be doing the accountancy. And I thought at that time I would leave numbers behind forever. I didn't know. I would walk down the street and I was looking around and I couldn't understand what job I was any use at all in the world. It was not a fun time or anything like that, but I knew I didn't want to do the accountancy, which was kind of ironic considering, about 2 or 3 months later, I started looking at Power BI and I thought, oh, this is interesting, because I was really bad at doing graphs in Excel, like properly bad. I didn't understand them at all. And yet with Power BI, it was really easy. And the other thing that was cool about Power BI was that because the project I'd done previously, it had quite a bit of Power Query in it. Now, Power Query is your data extract, transform, and load tool that is like effectively, in my head, it's 1/3 of Power BI. And so I went into Power BI actually having skills that I could then put into practice. So my journey to Power BI was not as great as it could have been. And obviously I knew about numbers and things like that. And I really was wowed by just how easy it was to create a Power BI report. I mean, it's still quite cool what you can, and obviously it's moved on massively since then. And then I put Power BI on my CV, and then I got headhunted because I was the only person in Buckinghamshire who had Power BI on their CV. So I then ended up doing a fixed term contract with Biffa, and then I kind of realised that fixed term contracts were low pay, low status, and they didn't really, you know, they were not a great way of being. They were not a great way of being a contractor. So I kind of figured, well, if you're going to treat me like a contractor and make me feel like a contractor, I might as well be a contractor. So I then decided, I'm going to be a contractor. And just from a kind of mental health and all that sort of point of view, my father-in-law had recently died. So this was about a year into being at Biffa, and I thought, you know what, if you're going to do it now. You don't know what's around the corner. So I in that year when I was with Biffa, I also got my own Microsoft tenant, and then lots of other things lit up in there. Now I go back to the days before Power Platform. So Power BI existed, and then other things kind of popped up, but they weren't called Power Platform. They were just things. And so Power Apps was one of those things, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is like amazing. Like you could build things that actually look decent. And you could build an expenses app and so on. So I really, really wanted to get into Power Apps. I just thought it was so cool, and I did the same thing again. I put it on my CV, and I was reaching out, possibly not in the most coherent of ways, to organisations. I didn't really know what a contractor was really, other than obviously taking a contract. So obviously set my own company up and all those sorts of things, and then I then went and worked with Parliament, so with the Parliamentary Digital Service. So they offer digital services for the House of Lords and the House of Commons, effectively. So, and within the context of that organisation, they were putting in Power Apps and they were putting in Power Automate, and I was effectively kind of building, training, and also doing some of the governance pieces around Power Platform at that time. It wasn't Power Platform, let's just be absolutely clear. It was Power Apps, Power Automate. They were two different things. And we didn't have a lot of the things that we do have now, like, for example, data loss policies. They just about existed and they didn't work amazingly well, but they did exist and so on. So I was there for 9 months, which felt like quite a long 9 months in all fairness. I really enjoyed it. I'm still in contact with the people that I worked with when I was in Parliament. It's still something that I clearly remember. It was so cool because I could literally go through the Houses of Parliament to get to work. And they have a special secret entrance that you go, so when you come out of the tube, you have a special entrance that comes in underneath the Houses of Parliament. It's so cool. There were a few barrels of gunpowder and so on there, but I took no notice of those. But yeah, it's there is a little element of privilege and so on. It's like you've got to roll with it sometimes. But it was really neat, and so I did that for 9 months. And I'm not a very good contractor in the sense of I really worked really, really hard to the end of the 9 months and then just fell off a cliff, because the contract came to an end, and you could argue that if I'd managed it differently, I could have got another 3 months out of it, all that sort of thing. But it's just not how I work anyway. I just try and do the right thing at the right time. So I had a bit of a pause, and then shortly after that, I then went and worked in with Reckitt Benckiser, and I was there for quite a while actually. Met some good people there. We were actually working with, we were building Power Apps connected to SQL databases, which at the time were actually free. As in, you didn't need special licenses, but then kind of at a certain point whilst I was there, they then said, oh, and by the way, next month it won't be free, and Yeah, and then you had to do all this thing to do with grandfathering and so on, so that people could then continue using them for 5 years, which probably has actually just run out about during this podcast, because it was actually about 5 years ago. And of course along the way I was kind of recording my learning and all this sort of thing. And so whilst I was even in Parliament, and also whilst I was at Reckitt Benckiser, I was also doing training, and I was also doing the YouTube videos and so on. And that was kind of partly how I got the whole MVP thing. In fact, when I was in Parliament, they had a guy from Microsoft, Darshan Desai, and he came to Parliament. He was just talking to him, and I got to meet him, and I had a great time meeting him and so on. And then he offered me a 10-minute slot at the end of his presentation in Microsoft, where I got to present something I'd done, and I built this really funny Power BI report with a Power App inside it, where you were like trying to work out the secret agents that were on the Power BI report, and you could then sort of maybe assign agents to kind of go and get that, go to that person. So you had 3 characters: an agent, a target, and a kind of enemy spy type thing. Showing how you could, and it was on direct query, so you could literally do it as a live demo. You could actually show the dots moving around the place. It was very funny. And so I did that demo, and I kind of got a bit hooked on that whole idea of presenting through that. And there's a little bit of the rest is history type thing. But certainly I was with Reckitt for quite a while. And then kind of COVID kicked in, and also the whole IR35 thing kicked in at which point lots of large organisations said, we don't want contractors anymore. We're going to do something, we're going to bring them in-house, or whatever it is they wanted to do. And at that point I thought, well, I really ought to be within a Microsoft partner. And I went and joined Hybrid Services, and I joined them for a year. It didn't quite work out. And then I went and joined CPS, and it didn't quite work out. I think that was really just because maybe I'm not that suited to the working in a partner where you're just constantly being given different things. So I don't know, imagine if you're a painter or something like that, and you're doing the Sistine Chapel, and then someone comes up to you and goes, do you mind doing this still life over here? And you go, oh, fine, I'll go and do the still life. And then can you go back to the Sistine Chapel? Yeah, I'll go and do the Sistine Chapel, and then come back down here, and can you do this like a catapult? I'll do you a catapult, and then go back and do this. And it felt like that. And I don't think it's any criticism of partners or anything like that. That is the nature of that space. But I don't necessarily think it particularly suited me. So we're now kind of up to kind of recent times, and I decided that what I would do is I would go back to the contracting, and I would just see how it worked out. And I did the coolest thing. Actually, I just got really lucky, and I got to write the learning content for the Microsoft Power Up program. Now, the Microsoft Power Up program is trains somewhere in the region of 25 to 30,000 people a year. And the purpose of it is to train them in the Power Platform. So we were, I kind of gathered a group of people together. It was myself, Charlie Phipps, and the people from 365 Talent Portal, Sandra Kutenko, and we were like the UK team that was putting together the content and I was then presenting the content, and we had to do all sorts of things. It was so cool, really, really stressful, but an amazing thing to have done, where we had to think deeply about the content. Like, what do you tell people? Because, if it's even if you imagined it as a painting or something like that, what is important is what you don't tell people is just as important as what you tell people. Because, myself and Charlie, we had a big discussion about whether or not we should tell them about business process flows. And in the end, we said, for this audience, this is not the right thing to teach them. Because the more we teach them of this, they won't retain. If you've done any delivery of courses or anything like that, you can see people's attention spans goes down over time. It's not a criticism of them or anything like that. It just does. And so there is a diminishing law of return. So I would rather they the things they understood well, than we just, we machine gun them with a load of things and just try and work out which ones hit and which ones didn't. So we made some big decisions about what we should include and what we shouldn't. And one of the things that we included was solutions. We said, no, these people will be building in solutions, come what may. That has to happen. And yet you would actually, if you actually look at courses, they won't show you solutions just because they'll just get you straight into building apps. And, and then the danger with that is that the minute they start to then build something for real, they then end up having all these strange experiences where we don't know where their connections are. And
I think it's also like when they go into that environment as well, their solution architect will be like, right, build this in a solution about what?
Yeah. So
it's all about preparation, right, and preparing them for the real world.
Exactly. And also, to some extent, in my mind, it was this, I remember the quote from Lilo and Stitch, and it was like, nobody gets left behind. And I really wanted it to be a course where nobody got left behind. And to not leave someone behind meant that we had to teach them less of something so that we could then, if there was anything that you were learning, do you expect to learn something in a short period of time? Well, I don't think you should. Like me, we may have a desire that we should learn things really quickly. The fact of the matter is data modeling is not that easy. It's something that's kind of alien to people. And so we actually spent a good bit of time just effectively on data modeling. But it was, for me, as a process to think about, well, what would I teach people? Like, you have to put yourself in the mindset of somebody who doesn't know something, which is really hard when you know stuff. So, yeah, then that was fantastic. So that has now been rolling out across the months. Every month that goes by, there are more people getting to consume that content, which is, for me, it's like, well, why do you exist? And, what's your purpose and so on? And, for me, I'm immensely proud of what we all did and achieved in order to kind of get that over the line. And, and that is then supported by Microsoft. It's not just a course that just exists in its own little bubble, and there are Power Up Champs, there are Credly badges, there are rewards. It's more than just a kind of series of videos. There's a solution you get given. There's a challenge at the end. It's really cool. In fact, I don't know where you could argue it's like, well, you've just done yourself out of a job there, haven't you? If you want to be a trainer, I just like, well, go and do that course over there. So yeah, which takes me roughly to now where I'm kind of splitting my time between training and kind of solution architecting. And I really don't quite know what's around the corner, if I'm honest. But I do know that I've been through enough of these cycles to kind of think, yeah, I don't know what's around the corner, but there'll be something.
And that's half the excitement.
Yeah. I mean, it's. Well, yeah, and I've also got a war chest as well, which is how you maybe reduce your, stress levels in terms of, will it work, won't it work, and so on. The world is such a changing place, though. It's sometimes it can be a challenge to know what you're even good at. Because the technology's changing all the time. So are you even telling them the right thing? And so on. But I think I'll do my best.
Absolutely. So when you're talking about when you were getting into Power BI in those early days, what was the community like back then compared to now? Because I've got this image of you working on this Power BI. Yeah, there's little resource apart from Microsoft Learn. Was that what it was like? Was there still a big community like we have now? Was it a lot smaller back then?
I'd say it was smaller, but it's one of those things where, like, they were already doing Power BI meetups. And so, to an extent, if you just know that there's, call it 1 or 2 people out there that share a similar passion to you, like, if you're the only person, then you are a bit of a loner. But actually, and so you could go to these events, and they were quite well attended. They really were quite well attended. And what we have now is we have more of them. And so, in more places. And so therefore, like, I would go to the London one because it's kind of local to me. And so that, yeah, you could feel that there was something happening. You could feel that actually, this had momentum. I think the difference between and then, I think the community is arguably the same kind of mindset of people are coming into the community. And one of the beauties of the community, it's always got that kind of mentally young feel about it. Like, I am new to the community. So it's not about your age. It's about the fact that you are new to the community. And I think it's always been a welcoming community. Everyone would talk about their community being that way, but I don't feel that if I ask a stupid question, it's a stupid question, if you see what I mean. And I think that, there are elements now where people are trying to use it to prove their knowledge and so on. And the dev heads like to do that. And you ask them a question of like, is this a book or is it, Apple? And they want to tell you like some crazy, like complicated answer. And you just want to know something simple. But there are elements, but that's because the nature of our platform is that it's trying to reach up to that pro code point as well. Previously, we were talking about the concept of no cliffs, which was an idea at one point. It is more of a reality now than it was previously. They bridged that gap. And then I think arguably for me that those gaps are harder to, like, they're taking me way past being an accountant. And actually, there is a glass ceiling for me, as in only so far I can go. I'm not a developer, like, I'm not a pro.
Well, I think you're kind of scratching the itch with the next question we were going to ask you, though, which is a little birdie has told me that you're getting into Power Pages.
Well, yeah. Well, and what I felt, right, was that, you look at the way we present the Power Platform, and it was something that made me feel really uncomfortable, or a little bit uncomfortable. I'd say, oh, blah, 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 who are you? Oh, I'm a Power Platform Solution Architect and something. And then it's like there's this thing called Power Pages I just knew nothing about. I didn't know what the value proposition of it was. I didn't know what a Power Page was. And I think that Power Pages is, unfortunately, it gets a lot of bad press. Because if you look at the way in which it's marketed, it's not marketed in the way that it arguably should be. Because it's arguably marketed as saying, hey, you can build web pages with this. Actually, yes, you can, but you're better off if you just want to build a web page, build a web page. This is a web page with authenticated access to Dataverse, which can allow you to have hero processes within your organization that you can guide people through. It means that people external to your organization can actually interact with data within your organization in a really secure way. That's what Power Page is, and it then presents itself as a web page and all that sort of thing. But it's more than a web page. And I think
there's some correlations there between that and Dataverse, right? Because a lot of people think of Dataverse as just a database, but actually no, it's got all this security model around it. It's got all the API access. It's got all of that built into it. The same with Power Pages, and people just see it as like Wix or Power Apps. It's like, no, it's more.
It is, and and I would, but certainly from conversations I've had within the community, it's still something that you can ask some people, and they will not have a good opinion of Power Pages, and it's like, well, that's a little bit unfair, and yet, if you ask the people that make Power Pages, and if you were to talk to the people that are customers that are benefiting from Power Pages, they love them. So there's something going on there to me. And if you actually look at the licensing model, they're actually quite cheap. So there's this slightly strange narrative that Power Pages are expensive. But for what they are, and bear in mind that I don't know, if you go for a cup of coffee, then maybe it costs you £5 or something like that. That has a cost to it. And actually, bad process has a real cost to it. It takes people. It takes, it really has a huge cost to it. And actually, Power Pages is about having great process, but it typically is not about having 4,000 great processes. It's probably about having our business runs on this 1, 2, 3, 4 processes. We need to make sure our suppliers have got X, Y, Z. We need to make sure our customers have got ABC. Maybe you just have 2 Power Pages then. I don't know. So yes, I got into Power Pages because I thought it didn't make sense to me to be saying I was a Power Platform solution architect and actually not really know about them. And I think there's an awful lot of people out there that fall into that category.
Yeah. It's almost, it does feel like sometimes it's a bit orphaned off. And like you said, it gets that bad rap. And I think that puts people off sometimes, even like investing some time into it.
I'm not sure Microsoft do a good job though at promoting.
No, they don't. Awful.
No, and I think that I mean, you've only got to go to the Power Pages site now. I'm pretty sure more recently it's slightly better, but it's certainly not the explanation that I just literally just ran off. My interpretation of that, and that's the challenge, isn't it? Because you want people to buy something. And so you want to sell them a dream and so on. And you want to sell it to the people who have got pockets that allow them to dream in that way. But then again, if you tell them the wrong thing, I don't think we need to dumb down Power Pages to the extent that from a marketing perspective they have done. And I think that because of that, then, it's not, it's, if you think about something like Power Apps, if you think about Power Automate, they are going like an absolute train. That it feels like. But if you think about something like Power Pages, which I think is a brilliant product, it is, you've got 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and people. You have experts. You have people that are these oases of competence, and then you've just got desert. But but at the same time, I don't know about you guys, but there are boundaries to how much you can know about all the products. Can you be a real Power Platform solution architect that is expert in all of the bits?
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's kind of my feeling.
And that's exactly why we have front end and back end developers, right? Yeah. In the pro code world.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, one of the challenges.
Yeah, absolutely. Rory, we heard you're a jazz singer. That's pretty cool. Is that?
Yeah, and it's a funny one. Am I a jazz singer or am I just a singer? Probably a little bit in between the two, because where it started was, I've always sung throughout my life, like humming around the place and in the shower and all that sort of thing. But I think more recently I've kind of just tried to up my game a little bit. So most people that do sing have never been taught to sing. They don't. And so more recently I started taking lessons, which has been fascinating because you would think that something that you did all your life you would know how to do. And actually, singing it's a physical activity, and it's all about the effectiveness with which you sing is a function of how you breathe, and also, but there's much more to that. It's how, you have to do lip exercises, you have to warm up the vocal cords, there's a lot to do, and ironically, the beauty of it in some ways is it's got nothing to do with technology. There are some bits you could do, like build an app so you could learn your lyrics and all that sort of thing. But actually, most of it's got nothing to do with technology. How you sing, how you perform. It's about you need to in person, all that sort of thing. So yeah, I've got into that, and so where it started was when I was down at my kind of local jazz club, and I thought, what, I would so love to be able to get up and sing up there. I'd just love to do it. It'd be amazing. And I did.
You did it?
Oh yeah,
okay.
yeah, I did it. Oh yeah, but I sing a cappella anyway, so it doesn't bother me too much. But actually, arguably, singing jazz is actually a lot harder than just straight singing or singing rock or any of those types of things, because I'll learn the song, and then I'll turn up and they'll do it in a slightly different key and they'll do it in a slightly different rhythm. It's like, well,
jazz.
That is really hard. But yeah, but I've really enjoyed it, and I'm here in Copenhagen at the moment, and so last night it's quiz night, and I thought I'm not saying no to any of these opportunities. So when I was on there, I'm like, so on the maybe Saturday. Yeah, I came early. I came on the Saturday. I went for a wander. And there was this guy doing busking, and I said to him, "Do you want to do a thing together?" And so me and him did Let It Be. He was on the guitar, I was singing, and we were just out there busking. It was so funny. Yeah, and then the other night we were at a quiz night, and I thought, so I picked up the. I said, "Do you mind if I do a little song for my?" I was with my my kind of dev team, the team that I'm working with at the moment, and I did a little mashup of Let It Be and Hey Jude because they're kind of crowd pleasers, and that was good fun as well.
Have you heard of Jacob Collier? Yeah, I think you need to check him out.
Yeah,
he's amazing.
Yeah, honestly, my music knowledge is so bad. I just know what I know, and then and then outside of that, I don't know when the names of a lot of the songs or the bands or the but there's a lot of amazing songs. I'm like I was kind of learning Hamilton. The theme tune for Hamilton. Not theme tune, but that first song for Hamilton is like really cool. There is structure to it, but it's like every word is different. So, and it's got a beat. It's got a proper beat. So I was learning that recently. I don't know if I'll ever get that out though, because that is properly difficult, and it's done by a choir. When I was at the Dynamics Minds in Slovenia, I did Somebody to Love in front of about 700 people, but I did it a cappella. It was brilliant. And when Freddie Mercury does that thing to the crowd, he gets the crowd to sing. I got the whole crowd singing that. It was the best thing ever. On the beach, sun going down, everyone's having a great time. Literally, and I'm not even joking. There are 1,000 people at the conference. Everyone could have gone to the after party because everyone was going to the after party. So there's nothing else to do. So there were hundreds of people there.
I mean, we're getting on to our question, which that's coming. What you've just explained there, singing in front of an audience, would make me feel.
I was going to say, I don't think we've got anything for this segment, have we?
Oh yeah, we do.
But have we got the music mic? As you know, Rory, as you are a seasoned listener of the Sprint Zero podcast, we've got this section called Uncomfortable Corner. So do you want to tell us when you last felt uncomfortable, whether that was inside or outside of work? Like, kind of explain how you felt, how you managed to get through it, and what you learnt about yourself in the process.
Yeah, I mean, but for me, I suffer from anxiety anyway. So it's the time when, like, I know you sort of said, well, going in front of people, that was when you might feel stressed. Actually, it's probably when where I feel the least stressed, or where I understand the stress the most. So I can feel very comfortable in that way, in that sort of set of circumstances. But the time when I literally, I can wake up possibly most days feeling very, very anxious. It hasn't always been this way, and maybe, but it's under control. I don't medicate or any of those sorts of things for it. Most stressed was when I was at one of my previous employers, and I was put into a meeting with. Well, I thought I was going to go into a meeting with maybe 3 or 4 people, and it was on a project where they weren't happy with things. Nobody was on camera. There were some people that damn near as negative as you could possibly be. If they did a chat GPT of like, take this phrase here and make it more negative and make this person on the other end feel as bad as you can make them feel. And how should I make my tone to make them feel as bad? It was like I was being spoken to, like I was,
Yeah,
something.
I can see how you would find that difficult, because your passion comes across on pretty much everything that you're speaking about. So having that polar opposite is definitely going to affect you. Yeah.
So I couldn't see them. It reminded me of like those hacker type things when they've got those masks on or something like that. And so all of the people didn't have they didn't even have the photos. So, but like, EB would be flashing up and saying a thing, and then ER would flash up and say something. It was just And I thought, for me, I thought, you know what? And my heart was racing. I felt absolutely awful. And I thought, you know what? I do not know what life is like. I don't know what's outside of this, but there is no way I am putting myself in front of that again. Like, I don't care. I don't care about the money side of things. That will sort itself out. But I will not be in that situation. And actually, my only way of not being in that situation was by not being in an organisation that was happy to put me in that situation. So I said, that's it. I made my plans. I'd already made my plans. I made my plans. I thought, this is what I'm going to do. I built up a war chest, and I said, right, I knew the timing. I had a plan, but I didn't have like a. I didn't in terms of, I thought, right, what are you good at? I said, well, actually, and the funny thing was that prior to joining the organisation, they would be they'd be mortified about this, but frankly, they deserve it. But prior to this, when I was joining them, I'd written a SWOT analysis, right, of like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And actually, I came across it and I looked at it, and unfortunately, all of the strengths weren't there. All there were weaknesses that were there that I hadn't thought of. There were opportunities that didn't materialize, and there were threats that hadn't. So it all went the wrong way. And I thought, well, the only way of being in control was to take control. And I'd already been through the cycle of going and becoming a contractor and not knowing what the future was like, but it all working itself out. So I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. But believe me, in that meeting, and this wasn't the only meeting where I felt that way. But it was just more of a kind of like, can you remember a time? My goodness, I could remember that time so bad, like almost medically felt not right, sort of thing. I thought this is not happening, and the thing is, nowadays you're doing it in your own home. You're having like this really, really bad experience in your own home. You go.
It's not like you can't just commute home afterwards.
Yeah,
My commute's down the stairs, so like,
and there is no disconnect, is there, Rory? And it's like one thing that I've started doing, which has been amazing. The kids have got like a paddling pool out in the back garden, which is with really cold water in it. And when I finish work, I go and get in there and I just sit there for about 10, 15 minutes, and it completely resets that. It's really good. I'm going to try and keep doing that.
And you can do cold water swimming. You can swim in the lakes around by me as well, which is really good. Amazing, like, because you get this hit, not this time of year really, but you get a hit that almost just like a reset. This amazing reset. It's like everything that was in the past is kind of in the past, sort of thing, and it's like a kind of this amazing thing. But you can get these ice bath things. They're kind of like these blow up things, I think, and you kind of sit in them. And my son wants one anyway, so I'll probably get one of those because cold hit is fantastic for mental health.
Yeah, for sure. Rory, thank you very much for being so eloquent and passionate about everything that you do. Going back to my first question about seeing you for the first time, and that was my kind of introduction into this area, really, and it's kind of led me. It was definitely a part of leading me to where I am today. So I really appreciate it. You can find Rory on LinkedIn and on his website, powerplatformlearn.com. I really stress the fact that you should definitely go and check that out because it's very, very good. Links to resources mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes. Music today was provided by our good friend Ken Like Fit, and you can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you'll also find in the show notes. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss another episode, and we would really appreciate it if you could give us a follow on LinkedIn. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you very much. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been Mike Gowland. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike.
And Rory Neary. Say goodbye, Rory.
Goodbye.
And I'm John Russell, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you. Cheers, everyone.
Thank you.
Love you, John.
Love you, Mike.
Oh, love you, John. And Mike.
Played.
I'm Sean, I run the Architects Accelerator. It's an 8-week training program to help you become a solutions architect. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how awesome it is. We're just going to hear from previous participants.
My name's Mike Colling.
My name is Sander.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
Hi, I'm Luke.
Hi, I'm Callum. I work as a senior functional consultant.
I signed up for this because it sounded something I hadn't seen anywhere else.
And that's what I liked about this course, is that we were focusing about taking the right requirement and proposing to the customer the right solution.
It's showing how to use the whole platform and how to build better solutions that could last a long time.
I don't have a background in software. And given that it's changing so fast every single day, I needed a guided way of learning. If the solution architect is the direction I want to go, I have taken something from every day of those classes and have applied them to my work.
Found it really useful and I really enjoyed it.
Use promo code SPRINT0 to get $50 off.